Good afternoon, Ellis County. Kevin Crouch here with Ellis County Weather. Actually, areas in and around Ellis County, actually. To tell you the truth, right now we have this line of storms. We've been expecting this, and last night we ended up kind of missing out on everything, but we have been expecting a line of storms to develop today on this very strong cold front that is going to bring a big difference in temperatures. The cold front has already moved through part of the county so far, and we should see a pretty decent change in temperatures in our area over time. So let's put this into motion first, and we'll talk about what's coming to Ellis County briefly just a moment. But you can see this line of strong to severe thunderstorms. You see this, obviously the storm in Johnson County moving into Ellis County here that is warned, and then further down towards the Hamilton area. Seems like Hamilton's always getting severe storms, and then down towards San Saba there, just a line of severe thunderstorm warnings, and then of course closer to home, we see one there as well. Let's move in to our particular area. You see that there's not really much happening in Ellis County right now. A little bit of a cell just south of Midlothian developing, but the main story is this storm here. You see this area, the severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued. Johnson and Hill counties included in that. That does not include Ellis County as of yet. But we are seeing that move into this area, and this storm, pretty nice structure with that. Let's take a look, kind of a closer look at this storm. Let's actually pause this. And I know I'm blocking part of the area here. Look, if I'm standing in front of your town, that means that there's not a whole lot going on. Let me see if I can get this, get a couple of things worked up here. We see this storm, and I know that you're looking at a curvature. We're going to take a look at that. I'm going to see just briefly if I can look a little less ghostly on the video here. You're probably noticing that this is a little bit of a different setup here. And, sometimes it takes a little bit of help to get this to look the best that it possibly can. Okay, there we go. That helps a little bit. All right, just don't want that to be distracting. So again, this storm is the one I've been watching, and we've had probably some pretty decent hail with this storm over the past few minutes. And if we look at the warning itself, let's actually get the text of that warning up here just briefly. And this is a warning until 6 p.m. So for the next 45 plus minutes, we are looking at this warning here, and that's going to continue on to the east, and I do expect there to be a downstream warning as a part of this. And so we will continue to watch this ping pong sized hail, possible 60-mile-per-hour winds. And this is radar indicated. I haven't heard anything of confirmation yet, but the National Weather Service is saying that large hail is really the primary concern with this storm. Now, a couple of things I want to look at. Obviously, let's take a look at the hail threat here, and you can see the little gray area here. That is where we're going to be seeing some of the hail. That's going to be where you're seeing some of that, and that's actually growing now, some of that large hail. And you see here, just on the other side of 35 West here, could be seeing some small hail with that new little storm. So this cold front, it took a minute really for it to really start to blow up towards our area, but we have seen that now, and you see these storms are sufficiently gaining strength here. Let's go right back to the regular radar. Let's actually take a look at velocity as well. And I am going to continue to keep an eye on this area right here. You see some of this brighter red here. This is a little bit concerning to me because you see some green. Okay, now we got some greens and reds there, because if we flip back to the regular radar here, you see that there is a little bit of a notch. Not anything loudly, screaming tornado at me, but this is going to be one of the things that I'm watching here. Not really looking at much of a tornado threat today, but that can never really be ruled out, right? So we're going to continue to keep an eye on that. This storm here that is just outside of Maypearl here. Let me zoom in a little bit, get some more town names on that. Just outside of Maypearl, I won't be surprised if that starts to turn up a little bit of a hail threat as well. And then if we move up to the north, just south of Midlothian, right in the Mountain Peak area, is where we're seeing this new little cell here that has developed too. So we're gonna keep an eye on all of this. I do expect a new severe thunderstorm warning to be issued into Ellis County. I do think that we will get one that's downstream. This storm is not moving terribly quickly. Let's get let's see if we can get a speed on that. What are we talking? Let's see, moving east at 15 miles per hour. So if we put, let's actually put a track on this. Let me see if I can get rid of that. Let's put a track on, and it's only moving about 15 miles per hour. So let's get a storm track on that. So there you can see what we're expecting in terms of when the storm will arrive. You have Grandview in about 35 minutes. Again, this is taking its time. Maypearl in just about over an hour. You can see here that this thing is going to take some time. It's going to take its time getting there. So we're looking at over an hour before it really starts to get into parts of southwestern Ellis County before it gets to Maypearl, Bella Branch, Boz, 5 Points, those areas. Forest in 103 minutes as far as it's estimating. Now, that may change this storm as the cold front continues to push through. And I will say that the cold front is going to be right about in here, I believe. So this is kind of on the back end of the front. So the more flow we get behind it that pushes this thing, to the east, or to the east rather, it's going to continue to probably speed up. And as it does, I think that we could be continuing to watch this part of the storm here where we have this little bit of a notch, I think is what we're going to need to monitor as the storm speeds up. Let's put this into motion. And let me get that off of there. And you can see that this storm is growing. It's growing in area and growing in intensity. And again, we have this storm just outside of Maypearl now, moving off to the east. And then this cell that continues to strengthen in the Midlothian area. And you can see the cold front here. You see this line here, that's your cold front. And as it comes in, it's bringing lower temperatures, at least lower humidity. That north breeze, gonna make it feel better. Matt over in Midlothian, who's a moderator on this, said that when the front moved through his area, it felt great when the wind was blowing, still a little bit warmer. I'm watching the temperature here. We just dropped a degree, so I'm pretty sure we'll start to see more and more temperatures drop over time. In fact, we can actually take a look at that now, and let's get these temperatures up on the map here. I'm sending in for an order to hopefully get these temperatures larger in this area, but you can tell the difference. If we look at 91, well, let's see. Yeah, 91 degrees. I want these larger. I'm going to see if I can get these raised up. 91 degrees at Midway Airport, the last report it had, but then you look over, we're in the 80s in Cleburne and dropping. So clearly a change in temperatures where the front has gone through, but it is bringing these stronger storms. All right, so let's get back to the radar here, and I want to go back to this hail threat and really kind of focus on that. Still looking at a pretty decent hail threat for this area. Definitely looking at the hail threat in this gray area here. I think that's going to be where you have your quarter-sized, ping-pong-sized hail that this storm is capable of. Possibly some small hail here heading into Maypearl, but not expecting anything too terribly concerning there at this moment. Now, these storms are going to continue to intensify. Okay, they're going to continue those. Okay, we just got a report in from Rio Vista. 1-inch hail. Okay, 1-inch hail reported in the Rio Vista area. So that's from a train spotter. So that was further to the west. So that's this storm that we've been watching right over Covington right now, headed off to the east. And so that's one of those storms. And you see in just south of Midlothian there, we are seeing that intensify too. Now, what you're looking at right now, for those that may have just jumped in, this is where we're seeing the intensity of the rainfall. And this is actually going to show us where the rainfall is intensifying and also help us identify where we're probably looking at the possibility of some hail. And I would expect to see some hail pretty quickly in this Midlothian storm as well, because it is quickly growing. And the thing that correlates with that is the echo tops. We can see as these storms continue to grow upward, and you see the red, that's that storm going up, growing very, very quickly, and seeing some definitely upward motion in the Midlothian storm as well. So let's get back to kind of what you're used to, and get this over here to where you can kind of see everything that's going on. So this is the storm that's prompted the warning. That warning continues until 6 o'clock this evening, so about another 40 minutes. I do expect there to be a kind of a downstream warning into Ellis County. This storm in the Midlothian area is quickly picking up steam, so I would expect that we probably will get a warning in northern Ellis County before too terribly long. I definitely think that we'll see that pretty soon. Again, if we look further downstream, there's just a line of severe thunderstorm warnings all the way from just north of San Saba to outside of Gatesville, up to the Hamilton area, and going into Bosque County there. So just a consistent line going up to Ellis County, and we do need to zoom back into home here. And okay, so this severe thunderstorm warning does continue. I really don't expect to see much of a tornado threat tonight, but I am going to continue to just periodically, we'll check the velocity and see if we see anything. I don't see anything rotation-wise. Looks like we could be seeing some gustier winds in this storm, but I'm not expecting anything tornadic at the moment. Now, what we are looking at, now, if you're looking here, just west of Mayfield, that could be a little bit of a false echo there. Let's take a look at the what correlates. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be an accurate couplet there. I don't think that's really going to be something to be concerned about at this moment. The National Weather Service hasn't said anything about it. I don't think that's going to be really anything to be too concerned with. If we look at storm relative velocity, again, not really seeing anything too immediately concerning there. So I think we can discount that and just right now focus on this being a hail threat for the most part. I think that's really going to be most of what we're going to be looking at for tonight. So the cold front itself continues to move through Ellis County. It's probably at about a 5 points to Waxahachie to Ferris line right now, maybe even through Palmer. Harder to see because now we have all of this kind of taking the focus of the radar, and the radar is kind of, it's looking at all this, so it's not able to really see past it to see where the front is. But it's a good bet that the front is moving through most of Ellis County now, and this activity is kind of on the back end of it. But we do continue to see the lift that the front has inspired as we see this storm on the south side of Midlothian. Let's take a closer look at that now. This is the storm in the Midlothian area, and I'm pretty sure this is right over Matt's house right now, so hopefully he can give us some reports on if he's seeing hail or whatever the case might be. I'm pretty sure he's going to be looking at, for the most part, some gustier winds, some very heavy rain, and you're probably looking at some hail there. So as we see, this is 287 right here. Here is 67. And so this is going to continue to move off to the northeast here. So I would expect this to cross 287 before too very long, head up towards Red Oak, Oak Leaf, and Ovilla there very, very soon. So this storm is not severe warned. We don't have a warning on this storm yet. And I say yet because we could very well see that kind of a change here over pretty soon. Now, Matt, if you are there, what are you seeing outside, or rather inside of this storm at this time? Because it looks like you could have, if there's any hail going on there, it could be in your area. Are you seeing anything out there? Let's take a look at this. I'm not seeing anything that screams hail on that. Now I'm seeing in the comments here just a little bit. I'm seeing hail now. If you want to tell me there's hail, tell me where it is. Give me your location, where things are actually happening. That would be helpful more so than just saying that there's hail. If you tell me where your location is, that's going to help me understand where you're actually seeing this. But this is that storm between Mountain Peak and Midlothian there. It does look like the precipitation in this is intensifying, so I would expect to be seeing hail relatively soon, right? I think we'll see that pretty quickly, but not actually seeing that at this very moment. Now, if we go down to this storm that is in the Covington area that's going to be heading towards Grandview, this is the storm with the severe thunderstorm warning attached to it. Obviously, we're looking at a pretty good hail core there. You can see the gray inside of all the purple there. Pretty good indication that we're looking at severe hail out of that storm right now. So that's where we're looking at there. I'm seeing reports of hail. Let's see, what does this say here? And this is just in the comments, but seeing reports of hail at south of 287 on 663, McAlpin and 67. So it sounds like, okay, so it sounds like in this storm, and again, this is the south side of Midlothian. Okay, here's 663, there's 287. Sounds like there could be some hail in this part of the storm. Now, I know this is not what you usually see on the regular radar, but this is looking at the precipitation. This is actually looking at where we're going to see the heaviest precipitation, possibly that hail. That looks to, this latest image has that weakening quite a bit. So let's go back to the regular radar view here and see what that update looks like for us. I'm going to move the camera a little bit too, so I'm a little bit better centered. Okay, so this storm could be losing a little bit of intensity here, although I would say if there is a hail core, it's going to be right in here. It's going to be right towards the Sardis area. Let's get a little closer in on that, kind of get a location there. And looks like the street names are fairly small on this map. But here is 287. And again, this is south of, you can see kind of the 287 bypass there. This is the south side of Midlothian right now. You see 875 there, kind of at the bottom. So this is where, if we're going to see hail, it's going to be in that area. Not a whole lot of discussion from the National Weather Service on this storm. So I'm not terribly concerned about hail from that. The main story, again, is going to continue to be this storm off to the west. Now, I saw a question about the rotation, the possible rotation on this. I'll just talk about that briefly. It does not look like we're looking at any kind of rotation on this storm. I know that we're seeing a little bit of a tail there that you're probably paying attention to, and we'll take another look at that just briefly. But I don't see anything out of that really screams rotation to me. It could be some gusty winds in the midst of that storm, but I don't think that we have to be concerned about rotation out of this one. Really not expecting much of a tornado threat out of this at all today. This is really not a tornado threat day. Really looking at more of a hail threat and a strong wind threat out of all of this activity. That's kind of where we're at with all of this. But obviously you see this moving into the Maypearl area now, and Maypearl, Griffith, Auburn there. Mountain Peak, you're kind of splitting these two storms here, but as this storm continues to move on, Waxahachie is under the gun here. So this activity is going to continue to move off to the east, and so pretty soon the 5 Points area, Boz, all of this, the Buena Vista Road here going out towards Maypearl, going to be filled in pretty quickly with this activity. And this is what we have. So this is all the activity in our area. There's really not much outside of that. Like I said before, we have these storms off to the southwest, and then this is kind of what we're looking at as far as stuff, the activity in our area. If you're east of that, there's really nothing going on. We see Corsicana here, Gun Barrel City over to Hillsboro. Hillsboro is missing out on it so far, but yeah, not a whole lot going on ahead of that area. And the front continues to kind of move on in this direction. So the front's going to continue to pull southeast. But aside from that, we're really not looking at any kind of activity outside of this particular line. And if we zoom this out, you can see that this line goes all the way from Ellis County all the way down. We're looking at storms in Kerrville, and then there's kind of a space there just outside of Brownwood. It continues on off to the northeast. And this is all part of that cold front that's moving through. So when we go closer here, and I know that folks in Waxahachie are saying they're hearing thunder now. That makes sense. You're going to start hearing these storms as they're moving closer and closer to our area. And this is not anything that's immediately damaging. I don't see any kind of major threat out of this. Again, we've ruled out a tornado threat on this storm, at least for the time being. And mostly just a very heavy rain situation, some very heavy downpours, possibly even some hail out of these, definitely hail out of this storm off to the west, and then watching for possibly some small hail out of these two storms in northwestern Ellis County. Waxahachie is quiet for now, and if we go over to the Red Oak area, you can see that this is already stretching into the Ovilla and Oakleaf area. Red Oak is going to be seeing this pretty soon as well. Kind of put this into motion, you'll see that it's kind of stretching off to the north. So if you're in the Red Oak area, the 75154 area up here, you've got some heavy rain moving in. I don't think that we're seeing hail out of that yet, but this is definitely kind of what we're watching as far as northern Ellis County in that Red Oak area. Waxahachie, not really seeing anything right now. You're under the gun. You're going to start hearing the thunder. You'll see this slowly but surely start to approach from the east, going into southern Ellis County, Italy and Milford area. Nothing right now. You'll see this off to the west, but there's nothing affecting that area right now. Get over to the I-45 corridor, the Ennis area. Nothing happening there right now. Ennis down to Alma, over to Rager Springs and Bardwell. There's nothing happening in your area right now. You're clear. And then as we get up to Palmer and Trumbull and Ferris, you see it approaching off to the west, but there's nothing really happening in your particular area right now. All of the focus is going to be to the west with this activity that's moving in. And we got to wait and see if we're going to see a downstream warning out of this. I do think that we will. I think we will see a warning that will go into Ellis County. Probably include everywhere from Griffith to Maypearl down to Italy and Waxahachie, possibly Midlothian as well. It all kind of depends on this storm and the track that it's going to take as it continues to push off to the east. And let's do a little more analysis on all of this. Let's go back to the view where we can see the hail. It looks like if we're watching this, the hail threat may be reduced a little bit in this storm that is currently over the Covington area. Again, it's moving very, very, very slow. I'm talking very slow. So the areas that are getting the heavy rain, it's just kind of sitting there, the heavy rain and the hail, that is. And we could be looking at a flood threat with this storm as well. In the areas where it's just going to sit there and wait, we could be looking at a little bit of a a flooding problem with that storm, as well as any of the storms that we're looking at. It looks like we are looking at some of the storms, the one in the Midlothian area up to Pecan Hill and Oak Leaf. Looks like we could be looking at those weakening a little bit. But the storm in Covington still hanging on. The hail core is not as robust as we saw it a moment ago. But I'm becoming more concerned about the flood-prone areas with this storm, because just look at it. It's just not, let's put this back into motion, just not moving very quickly. It's kind of hitting the same, some of the same areas as it was several minutes ago. It's just kind of sitting there, right? Not a whole lot of movement on that, and not a whole lot of movement in the activity that's up in this part of Ellis County as well. It's just kind of hanging out there and moving very slowly. So if you are in a flood-prone area where we're going to be looking at these storms, I would take some precautions now. And by the way, we're now in the mid 80s here in Waxahachie, so the cold front has definitely come through and made a difference. And that cold front, in addition to that rain-cooled air in western parts of Ellis County, man, it does not feel like it has the last few days for sure in North Texas. And all of this activity just kind of training over the same areas. And we've had some flood advisories that were issued in the Hamilton area there, and I expect that trend to continue kind of upstream as these storms move through. And this storm that is moving towards Hill County, that could eventually move up into Ellis County. It'll be interesting to see how long this activity continues to train to the northeast before it actually starts to move on down to the southeast. So we got to kind of watch and wait and see what that does. A lot of wait and see with this activity tonight. Okay, so yes, that severe thunderstorm warning in Johnson County, National Weather Service saying that does continue until 6 o'clock. So that storm continuing to prompt a severe thunderstorm warning, but the activity that is in, you notice the colors are getting a little bit less impressive in this activity. It does appear to be weakening somewhat. Still plenty of heavy rain going on, but not quite the saturated reds and little bits of purple that we saw a moment ago. It does look like most of the energy right now is down to the southeast. That's kind of what we've been seeing. And so as this storm continues to move to the east, or really the northeast, we could see this activity begin to weaken a lot of what we're looking at. So, we could end up with a situation where we don't actually see any severe thunderstorm warnings or any severe weather as a whole for this area. But either way, we'll be ready for it. Not hearing anything from spotters out that way. I know that we had the one confirmation of ping-pong-sized hail in southern Johnson County, the Rio Vista area. Rio Vista, I've heard it said both ways, right? We've seen it different ways, different pronunciations, so, whatever works out there. But this storm bearing down on Itasca right now is, that's the story. That's the one that is most intense. And again, this activity up in the Red Oak area, from Red Oak over to parts of Midlothian, down towards Maypearl, plenty of moderate to heavy rain right now, but we're not actually seeing much intensity out of that activity. And I'm interested in the way that it's losing a lot of its intensity, and I want to see what this storm to the west does as well, if that continues to lose some of that intensity. If we take another look at this, okay, so we're still seeing that hail core there. So off to the west of Itasca, you're still seeing where we have that gray, right? And let's take a little bit of a closer look and how that's in relation to Ellis County. You see Files Valley here. Here's Maypearl, Plum Grove. There's Auburn. So here's the county line, and here is this hail core. So that's going to continue to track off to the northeast very, very slowly. We're talking 10, 15, 20 miles per hour here. Not moving very quickly at all. And still a little bit of a hail core, but not near as large a hail core as we saw several minutes ago. And so we're probably looking at a weakening storm in general over that area. Temperatures continue to drop. We're at 86 degrees right now here at the studio. We were at 94 degrees, really 95 degrees when this started, and we've been on the air for, let's see, what is that, about half an hour now? So, 30 minutes, we've dropped nearly 10 degrees. That's a pretty that's a pretty good plummet there of the temperatures. So if we don't get any severe weather, hey, at least we're getting those cooler temperatures. And if you looked at the forecast earlier today, we're in the 70s basically all of next week. So, I'll take it. And when we start to get above 80 degrees at the end of the week, that's still a lot cooler than we've seen recently. So, we'll definitely take it. And here's the, let me kind of back out a little bit so that if you're looking for your neighborhood, Midlothian is kind of on the back side of this now, moving into the Red Oak area, some pretty heavy rain there. Just starting to move towards Waxahachie now. Nothing in Italy, nothing going on in Ennis or in Ferris. As you can see ahead of this activity, there's really nothing going on. And this is pretty much it. If you're behind this activity, from Burleson to Mansfield, over to Venus and Alvarado there, you're pretty much done. We could see some activity after, behind this, but you're pretty much limited to this complex, kind of this line here for activity. If you're ahead of it, temperatures are probably still in the 90s, still around 90 degrees. If you're in the Ennis area, you may be waiting for that cold front to arrive, and you're probably wondering when you're going to get some rain. Doesn't look like you're going to get any rain for a while here, and I may be on the air for a while because all of this activity is taking its time. It's just training off to the northeast. So that's why I was talking about this flood threat a moment ago. I do think that we're going to be looking at a flood issue in this particular area from about Red Oak to parts of Midlothian down to Maypearl and on down to Grandview and Itasca here. Because from what we can tell, all of this is going to train over where it already is. And this storm is dropping plenty of rain. So if that continues on and we don't get the kind of flow to bring this to the southeast, we could be looking at some issues in those areas, those low-lying areas or near a creek, near a pond or a lake, wherever you might see some of those more flood-prone neighborhoods. Now, if we go down to the southeast, you can see from Meridian here down to Cranfield's Gap, outside of Hamilton and outside of Goldthwaite there, more storms, and these are kind of doing the same thing. These are training over the same area as well. We don't have a lot of eastward or southeastward motion from these, and so that's really where we're going to be just watching this activity, just in the same places. Eventually, we will see this come together as a more solid line and push off to the southeast. And I think that's probably going to be when the Ennis and Barnwell and Italy areas see their best chance of rain, is when we do start to see that stuff move off to the southeast. But for now, it's all going to be training, and we're getting the heavy rain in Red Oak right now. Let's kind of zoom into that area. If you're in, again, this is the 75154 zip code here. So from Ovilla to Oakleaf, getting plenty of heavy rain right now, to Red Oak, and we have Pecan Hill, Elva there. This is one of the areas where you're getting some of the heavier rain, and I don't think we have to worry about hail at this moment. If we look at this, definitely some heavier rain. I would not be surprised if you see a little piece of bean or pea-sized hail in this area, but again, not looking at anything too concerning at this moment. Just a pretty good downpour. And if we watch kind of the progression of this, it's definitely intensifying. It's definitely gaining strength, but I don't see anything that has me immediately concerned in that area. The same south of Mountain Peak here, heavy rain, but not expecting any hail out of this activity right now. And then obviously, like I've said, the Covington area, you can see the gray here. This is where we're watching that continued severe level hail that has prompted that severe thunderstorm warning. And that's going to continue to move off towards I-35 west here, towards Itasca and Files Valley. So that will continue to move on, and eventually, after quite some time, move over into Ellis County. So we can actually put a storm track on that And again, this is moving very slowly. We're talking between 10 and 20 miles per hour. And we do actually have, if we zoom in a little more, we do have now kind of a hail core developing there. So this is the kind of the pink and the violet and the purple that we're watching there. So we'll take that and put a storm track on that and see when we can expect that to start hitting more populated areas in Ellis County. Let's just put an average of 15 miles per hour. And you can see here, moving into the Maypearl area in about an hour, okay? So it's going to be quite some time before this storm, assuming it's still moving at around the same speed, going to take some time for it to get into this area. Bell Branch in about 72 minutes, 77 minutes. Boz, same thing for 5 Points, and then about 87 minutes for Forreston. So, we're looking at a pretty slow progression of this storm into more populated parts of Ellis County over the next several minutes. So for now, not expecting a warning for Ellis County, at least not in the meantime, not anytime soon, unless they decide that they're possibly seeing some hail in the front part of this storm that is about to cross out of that warning area. But I would imagine they're going to pretty well keep that warning confined to this hail core here. So this is what we've got, and not a terrible lot happening, but I will say that this part of the storm that's heading kind of towards the Ferris area, that may move north of Ferris, at least for the most part, over to the northeast there. That does appear to be intensifying a little bit. And if we put the high-res velocity on, I know people have been asking about a tornado threat. I don't see anything in any of this that has me concerned about tornadic activity. What you can see, it is easier to see the front there. So the cold front beginning to approach I-35, now crossing I-35 right around the Forreston area, maybe just a little north of that, and moving through the Alvarado area right now, the Avalon area, and then crossing probably through, I would say, Palmer there. So that's the cold front. You can see kind of the winds there. But again, I'm not seeing anything that's got me concerned about tornadic rotation or anything like that in our part of the county, really anywhere in the county, especially where these storms are. We're looking at mostly a hail threat. This cold front is bringing in very strong updrafts. So what happens is you have these storms, and the lift is considerable. So these storms pop up, they intensify very quickly. They've got very strong updrafts, and they're carrying those rain droplets up into the cloud. And the more they go up, the more they freeze, because these storms are literally freezing up at the higher levels. So it's going to continue to carry those up. They freeze, they get heavy enough to combat that updraft, and that's when they fall as hailstones. But the hailstones get larger and larger the stronger the updraft that you have, because that's upward moving air, and it has to get big enough and heavy enough to fight that upward air. So if you get a considerably large hailstone, that means you've got a very, very strong updraft. Right now, the confirmed hail size we had out of this was 1 inch hail. So I don't expect to see anything considerable out of this, but that does, just get up to that criteria of a severe thunderstorm warning. And we have that warning continuing here. That's still in effect for about another 12 minutes. And we'll see if they issue a downstream warning. This storm does seem to be holding its own. It does seem to be cycling up a little bit right now. We'll actually zoom in on that a little bit, and then we'll head up to Red Oak shortly. Just on the back end of this, just to the east of Covington, that's where we're seeing kind of this purple area. And if we can zoom in on that a little more, just right here along 67, FM 67, that's Highway 67. This is FM 67 here. And then, of course, behind that, you have I-35 right back here. So going to continue to ride FM 67 here, but that's where we're looking at the hail core. And as you can see, it's moved a little bit to the northeast now. And that's where we're going to be seeing the most intense part of the storm. That's going to be what carries any kind of warnings with it. But again, not moving very quickly. It's going to continue on, going to just, ride 67 up towards 35, south of Grandview there, really between Grandview and Files Valley. It's going to continue to move on, and then could move towards the Maypearl area, but after a while. It's moving very, very, very slow. And we'll go up to the Red Oak area here, now moving off to the east of Red Oak. You can see Elva here. This is 342, and so it's going to be moving right across 342 here off to the east, really to the northeast. So this is Dallas County. This is Dallas County that you see here. So off to the east, is going to be Ferris and Wilmer up there. Ferris and Wilmer really have to be watching for this over the next several minutes. But for right now, it is on really at 664 and 342 here. That's kind of the area that's getting the heaviest activity. We haven't had any confirmed reports of hail there, but it does look like we could be looking at some heavier rain. Down in the Mountain Peak area, we have some heavier rain, and just east of Mountain Peak, actually between Mountain Peak and Waxahachie here. So this is going to be in between that area. Heavy rain, not looking at any hail here. That's going to continue to move off to the northeast here. Let's kind of get Waxahachie in the frame, get me out of the way. And you can see that this is moving a little bit more possibly eastward. So this is probably going to be what moves at least into northern parts of Waxahachie. This will probably move up towards the intersection of the crossroads there, 35 and 287. I think is going to be really where this area is going to track towards the Sardis area, up towards Waxahachie High School and Baylor Medical Center area, Baylor Scott and White, that is. So I think that's kind of where we'll see this track over the next few minutes here. But again, moving very slowly. So those flood-prone areas do need to be paying attention to all of this. And just a wide view here, this is what we're watching. So this storm, and I feel like I'm seeing a little bit more eastward motion of all of this. Maybe my eyes deceive me, but I do feel like I'm seeing a little bit more eastward motion of this activity moving due east. It was moving to the northeast a moment ago, but I do feel like we're moving a little more due east now, and we should see these storms begin to increase in their speed as this continues to move off to the east, and as the all the cooler air begins to push it to the southeast. Not only will we cool down even more, we're at 82 degrees here at the studio. And I will say that the temperature readings here at the studio tend to ride a little warm sometimes, so we could be looking at 80 degrees. We could be crossing into the 70s very, very soon here at the studio. And I'm sure it's even cooler in the Midlothian area back in Mansfield and Burleson. But this activity is going to continue to move off to the east here. And this hail core is going to be what we're watching over the next several minutes. That's kind of what we're going to be paying the most attention to as all of this continues to progress. And I hope that you are enjoying the view here. I haven't addressed it yet. I've been making sure to stay on the weather, but this is kind of the new normal for Ellis County weather. I know this makes it a lot easier for people to kind of see what's happening instead of following that teeny tiny cursor all over the screen. This makes, I think, at least the feedback that I've gotten so far, makes it a lot easier for you to see what's going on across the radar here. And obviously, this has kind of been the first opportunity to follow storms. I've done screen tests with storms in different parts of the country, but this is the first opportunity I've had to really cover storms in our particular area with this. So I do hope that this setup has made it easier for you to see what is going on. And again, we're kind of seeing this activity, this storm, begin to cycle down a little bit. And we're going to see this, I think. I think we're going to see it cycle up and down for the most part. Let's just take a little bit of a ride around, see if we're getting any wind speeds. Not seeing any kind of wind, any kind of big wind speeds here, any concerns as far as very strong winds for this storm. And again, if we look at this, you can see the cold front here. That's your cold front. So just passed through 5 points, moving towards the Italy area now. That's kind of where we're watching. And then this is the storm here. So I'm just really not seeing any kind of very, very strong winds. And then if we continue to check this out, it does look like we're seeing this hail core beginning to collapse a little bit. So the storm does appear to be weakening, at least for now. I don't know how long that's going to stay that way. We could see this storm cycling down now, and then it could cycle up again. So we'll kind of have to wait and see what this is going to do as it continues to get closer to 35. It may weaken as it crosses 35, which would be a blessing for those traveling on that road. I don't even see any gray in that anymore. So it does look like we're losing some intensity in this. We may be losing the hail here. We may be ready to cancel this severe thunderstorm warning. They may wait and see if it's going to cycle up again. And it's actually got only about 5 more minutes. So we could actually see this warning go away without the downstream warning into Ellis County. The sun is getting ready to start going down. Of course, it'll be up for a while, but as we start to lose that daytime heating, that could encourage some of these storms to weaken. And we don't have the energy here. Clearly, we don't have the kind of instability and an inspiration for these storms that there is further down in the southeast. Down in that area, southwest rather, down in that area, these storms have been very, very intense, and they've been hanging on to that intensity quite efficiently. If we take a look in that area, definitely a lot more activity down towards Gatesville. Does look like it's a little less organized than it was, but a very strong storm off to the west of Gatesville, east of Hamilton there, moving into Bosque County there. We put this into motion. I want to see what the overall trend is here. And it does look a little bit less organized, but what you're noticing here is you see that there's more showers kind of developing around the activity. That's what I was talking about, where we may have more showers kind of overnight tonight, may have more showers and thunderstorms that develop tomorrow. Of course, as I've been talking about, we have a big rain event coming in for Monday and Tuesday that will be really, really interesting to cover. But for now, a lot of the energy off to the southwest here. And we are under, I haven't mentioned this yet, but we are under a severe thunderstorm watch until 11 o'clock. Now, if we actually, let's back off a little bit and I'll show you this watch, because there is a point that I would like to make about the watch that is in place. So let's get that severe thunderstorm watch on the screen here. If we can, it doesn't appear to want to pull up there. Okay, yeah, so you can kind of barely see it. It's not very, let's see if we can get that a little more visible here. We're using a little bit of a new map here. There we go. All right, perfect. Yeah. So this is the severe thunderstorm watch, and you can see that Ellis County is kind of on the back end of this, right? It goes from Bosque, Hill, Ellis to Kaufman counties here, and as this activity moves off to the east and the southeast, these back counties will start to get shaved off of that. So I don't expect us to be under that watch for that entire period. I think that we'll be knocked out of that relatively early in the life of the watch itself. So I'm not too terribly concerned about that. So you see here that the warning has now expired, and I don't see any new warning coming out here, and I'll be watching information from the National Weather Service too to see if they have any kind of new advice on this, but I don't see them discussing a new warning for Ellis County. This storm has weakened considerably, and even the storm now moving towards Ferris and Wilmer has weakened quite a bit as well. Right now, really, this is just more of a heavy rainmaker, and it's going to be pretty loud. We've got rain now in Files Valley up to Grandview, over to Maypearl now, Auburn getting some heavy rain, and that's going to be really the story, I think, out of this one. And there's plenty of little lightning strikes. You can see them there. So this storm is going to make a statement whether it's hailing or not. It's going to be a pretty loud storm, but if we go over to where we can kind of see the precipitation types here, there's probably some small hail going on south of Auburn and south of the Files Valley area. There may be some smaller hail in there, but I don't see the gray that we saw earlier that usually indicates your severe level hail, right? I don't think, we're just not seeing that. And I think that we will be seeing that storm cycle up. It seems like it already is, right? If we put this, let's actually loop this, and you can almost see where the first hail core fell apart, and then now you're actually seeing probably a new hail core developing right on the county line now. So that happens sometimes too. You have one part of the storm that cycles down, and then another part of the storm kind of steals the energy and cycles up. So that's what we're watching here. You see you watch here very closely out of Covington. You see, let me move that up a little bit, and you see that original hail core, what's left of it, but then you see this intensify out ahead of it. So it looks like this storm is kind of recycling itself, and we could actually end up seeing a warning issued for Ellis County if this part of the storm continues to intensify. Let's put this into motion here and kind of see how this develops. Yeah, so you can see that this front part of the storm intensified after the backside weakened. So, and that makes sense. This back part of the storm was kind of cut off from some of the energy there, and now the front part of the storm wants to intensify. So we'll have to watch that very closely as that is moving that's moving into the Maypearl area now, into Files Valley, moving towards Plum Grove and 5 Points and Bob's pretty soon. This is the Great House area. This is the Bethel area here. This is the area, of course, that was hit by that tornado last year or 2 years ago. And so, this is kind of that southwestern part of Ellis County, a lot of rural area here where this will be moving in. And again, if you're further east than that, if you're in the Ennis area, the Palmer area, not a whole lot happening in your neck of the woods. In Bardwell, in Italy right now, not a whole lot happening. This is really the only part of Ellis County that is getting a whole lot. Getting a little bit in the Ferris area there. You see a little bit of new development there, but not much going on in the rest of Ellis County. You're kind of in a waiting period right now. But this part of the storm, this is the main story. This is going to be what we're watching, what appears to be intensifying now. Let's get another look. Let's just look at a couple of things. We are seeing some increasing wind speeds south of Maypearl there, and this is that part of the storm that's intensifying. I don't see rotation here, but this is going to be just gusty winds within the storm, but that does indicate to me that we are looking at a strengthening storm just in general. And let's take another look at the precipitation specifically. And it does look like this is cycling down again, but I am seeing some purple there. Could be looking at some brief small hail there, but other than that, not really expecting a whole heck of a lot. It's definitely kind of condensing, right? It's not as robust as it was a second ago, but again, this storm is just going to continue to, I think, cycle up, cycle down, and back and forth as it goes through Ellis County. So that's what we're seeing moving into the Maypearl area now. So moving into Maypearl, very, very heavy rain, lightning and thunder and all the different things you expect with a thunderstorm, but we're not looking at anything severe warned at this moment. I'm watching the National Weather Service chat. I'm not seeing anything that appears to be talking about any kind of severity with this, not seeing any sign of that. So it looks like we could be spared some of the most severe indications here, the severe weather that we were talking about was possible. There's a lot of county to go, though. There's a lot of area. This is all of Ellis County. You see just to the east of Ferris here is some heavier rain, and then obviously, like we talked about, in the Maypearl area on south, that is the heavier activity we're seeing there. But again, if you're in other parts of the county, from Italy to Ennis, the Highway 31 kind of corridor there, not really seeing anything. Waxahachie, you've got some rain in northern parts of town. It won't be long before the rest of Waxahachie, though, is catching this activity moving off to the east. So your time will definitely come here in the next several minutes. And as we continue to zoom out, it does look like this activity to the southwest is becoming less organized, but I do think we're looking at more of a flood threat here. You see the rain is becoming a lot less, it's less organized, but there's more coverage of it out in this area. Even back to Comanche, we're seeing some additional development, and down towards Gatesville as well. So I don't know that this activity will continue to move on to the northeast. I think we're going to start to see more eastward push of this activity, and I think that's going to help to kind of not only get this activity out of the way, but I think that will also help to possibly minimize the flood threat for most places. But I would be concerned about flooding off to our southwest. In our particular area, if you're in northern Hill County right now, you've got to be happy that the rain is finally moving out of your area. And it does look like this could be picking up a little bit of speed here. And I talked about how it's moving more due east. So that's evidence that we're starting to get more push of those the cool air that's going to continue to push this and should start pushing that to the southeast, I would imagine, over the next several minutes here, and probably bring more activity to the Italy, Bardwell, Ennis areas, because right now you are just really, really missing out. But I think that we will see more of that move into your area over the next several minutes. Let's go over to far northeastern portions around the Walnut Springs area. Here's Ferris. Here's Walnut Springs. Here's an area of heavy rain. Could be a little bit of a hail core trying to develop there. Let's actually pause this here. That's where you could be looking at a little bit of a hail core trying to develop there, but that's going to be moving out of Ellis County pretty soon up into Dallas and Kaufman counties there. Not a whole lot for Ellis County there. Getting into Waxahachie, parts of Waxahachie getting some rain right now, some steady rain. Actually, in my area, looks like we're getting the rain now. If let's take a look out the window here. Yeah, it's a little bit of rain, but not anything too terribly heavy right now. And Pecan Hill and Rocket looking at kind of the same thing, right? Just some decent rain there. But as you can see off to the west, moving into Sardis right now, there is a little bit more heavy activity. Again, here's Waxahachie. We've got Maypearl. Move this away from the logo there. You got Maypearl there. Heavy rain stretching from there up to Sardis. That's going to continue to move off to the east if we kind of put this into motion here. That's going to continue on to the east a little bit. It's kind of training all over the same area, right? You see this, not really moving east very much. It's just kind of pushing over those same areas, and that's where the flood issues come in. And let's move a little further off. Here you see the Auburn area. Here's the county line. Here is Files Valley there. Here's Auburn, Maypearl, Plum Grove, and then 5 Points, obviously here, 5 Points, Boz, that area. So all of this activity, this is kind of what we're seeing move a little bit more to the east. Not really moving so much northeast as it is moving a little bit more to the east there. But it does now look like it's beginning to move on a northeast track again. I think as the storms lose intensity, they kind of start to shrink, and they'll just get caught up in that northeasterly push there. So if we just kind of reevaluate, just do a wide view of Ellis County right now, from Ferris on down to Waxahachie to Maypearl there, this is really all the activity we have. It is weakening. We have a lot less of a hail and severe weather concern than we had several minutes ago. And let's just kind of take a look again at this. Not quite. Let's take a look at the any indications of that precipitation. Obviously, heavy rain in the Ferris area, heavy rain west of Waxahachie. This is where we were looking at the possibility of some hail. I'm not even really seeing it so much there anymore. So we're really not seeing any kind of anything too intimidating right now. I don't see any reason at all that any of this activity should be warned. So I think that we're right now just looking at a hail, or rather a rain situation. Some areas of heavy rain, obviously, but I don't think that we have to be concerned about any of this. If you get some small hail, I wouldn't be surprised, but definitely not looking at the ping pong size hail that was reported in southern Johnson County several minutes ago. And the cold front, let's see if we can see where the cold front is right now. We'll put on the velocity view. Looks like the cold front, you can just barely see it here. So from east of Palmer down to the Ennis area, it looks like the cold front is moving through Ennis now, towards Bardwell, moving through the Italy area now, just outside of there. So you're going to start cooling down pretty soon. Obviously, some gustier winds associated with that storm in the Maypearl area, but this is your cold front here. And as that continues to move through, we're going to be cooling down quite a bit. We're at 77 degrees. We have dropped nearly 20 degrees since this broadcast began. So just a remarkable drop in this area. And where the temperature is right now, this is kind of going to be, actually, really, we'll get into the low 70s for highs over the next few days. Lows in the 60s, highs in the 70s. You can't argue with that in the latter half of May. Cherish it now. It won't be long before we're looking at much warmer temperatures for our area. And we see a little bit more development down towards the Blum area here too. I think that eventually we'll see this whole line kind of fill in. And look how quickly this activity to the southwest is weakening. From Clifton up to near Whitney there, all of that activity weakening very, very quickly, losing intensity, just getting squashed there. I think part of that is losing that daytime heating. I think that's a big factor. But as you can see off to the west, we are seeing this kind of start to stretch back westward. And I think that most of what we're going to see this evening, if we zoom out here, we have one storm down in the Gatesville area that is just hanging on the best it can, but you see more rain developing, just regular rain developing in that area. I think that's going to be a little bit of more of what we're going to see over the next several minutes. Now, eventually, we will see a stronger line develop, probably further to the southwest. So I think from Corsicana on down to Waco, on down to Killeen, possibly down further southwest, and that could be more towards the Mexia, Groesbeck area. But I think that we're going to see a line, a more solid line develop in that area as the cold front continues to move off to the southeast. I think we'll see a more intense line of storms overnight move through that area. We're under this slight risk of severe weather, and we did have some notable severe weather in southern Johnson County. And we have some new cells developing there. I don't have a whole lot of hope for those really doing a whole lot, but this activity, we did have some severe weather that developed. It just didn't last too terribly long, or it didn't go very far at least. It was moving slow enough that there wasn't a whole lot happening there. So I think that we'll skip out on most of the severe weather tonight. Obviously, we're going to get some rain, which nobody's going to argue with tonight. We're going to continue to see the rain in the Maypearl area. I would be concerned about flooding in Maypearl. Really from Maypearl on to Waxahachie, I am concerned about flooding in those areas because, as you can see, we've been getting heavy rain there for quite some time now. So I'm concerned about flooding there because I know that Maypearl has some flood areas, some flood-prone areas, and some issues there. But other than that, we're not really looking at any kind of dangerous or concerning weather tonight. I'm going to continue to monitor this, and this may sound, it may be loud and noisy and scary and that kind of thing, but it does look like we are skipping out on the severe weather. We'll just take a look because it looks like we could be seeing some deepening red there. So we'll take one more look at the potential. We could be seeing a little bit of some hail trying to develop there. In fact, this is looks like a very old image here. Let's see if we can get an update here on that, because that looks like a pretty aged image there. I'm not seeing any kind of available update there. Obviously, this image is much more updated, but that precipitation image, for some reason, is very, very, very behind. So I'm not sure what's happening there, but just looking at this, I don't think we're going to be looking at any kind of major hail threat from this. Let's move this over a little bit where it's a little easier to see. I don't think we're looking at a whole lot of hail. We could be looking at periodically some small pea-sized hail in parts of Maypearl there, but I really don't think that we're going to be dealing with that. I don't understand why we're not getting a newer image. I don't know why we're not. This is a pretty old. This is back at about 6:01. So I'm not entirely sure why we're not seeing a newer image there. A little bit strange, but that's the current situation there. Not seeing a whole lot going on there. These storms off to the west, again, I don't really see those doing a whole lot. I don't think that we're going to be looking for any kind of severe weather out of those. But I will continue to monitor all of this activity. Just enjoy the heavy rain. Again, watch for flood issues there in the Maypearl area, moving up into Waxahachie here pretty soon. We put this into motion. You can see that it's moving off to the northeast. So again, moving into Waxahachie, pretty good rain there. This is going to be a loud storm. It's going to make its presence known, but I don't think we're going to see anything too terribly worrisome with that activity. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that, and we'll continue to monitor this for you, but I think we're pretty much done with the risk of severe weather tonight. We'll watch this storm to make sure it's not going to cycle up. Sometimes when I cut off the live feed, that's when it happens, right? But I don't think that we're going to be seeing anything severe out of this storm. I think we're going to get a good rain out of it and enjoy the cooler temperatures. We're still at 76, 77 degrees here, and we're going to continue to cool off. We'll be in the 60s overnight. Could drop, some low-lying areas could drop into the 50s overnight tonight. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys with that. Make sure to follow Ellis County Weather. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and, of course, YouTube as well. I'll be posting more updates about this stuff throughout the evening. But, again, I think we've passed our concern for severe weather. More updates coming this evening. Enjoy the rain, enjoy the cooler temperatures, and be prepared for a much better rain coverage event coming up on Monday. And